to the Hip Hop Scholar podcast, where beats meet bibliography and every artist is treated as a living text within the culture of hip hop. I am Melanie, the Hip Hop Scholar. On the podcast, we honor voices that carry truth, and today's guest is a poet whose work speaks directly to the soul. Coming out of Detroit, Michigan, a city known for producing artists who turn struggle into art and testimony into rhythm, today's guest represents the living tradition of spoken word culture. Solfull Poetry is a poet who has built his voice through dedication, consistency, and an unwavering commitment to expression. He is part of a lineage of artists who understand that poetry is not just something you perform. Poetry is something you live. Solfull Poetry is known for delivering work that is rich with emotion and grounded in lived experience. His words carry weight. His poetry moves between love, reflection, growth, and truth-telling in a way that connects deeply with audiences. His flow has been described as rhythmic and refreshing, the kind of poetry that pours straight from the heart and leaves listeners with something real to hold on to. This is an artist who has taken poetry beyond the page and onto the stage. Through performances, showcases, and creative collaborations, Solfull Poetry continues to build community through language. His work lives across platforms including spoken word performances, recordings, and visual storytelling, including projects connected to the life of a poet, a body of work that reflects the journey and discipline behind the craft. The tour, you better check it out, coming in April 2026. Now, what stands out about Solfull Poetry is deliberate precision. There is a sincerity in his delivery that reminds us that poetry is still one of the most honest art forms that we have. In a time where everything moves fast and attention is short, Solfull Poetry represents the artists who are still waiting to sit with emotion and translate life into language. And on this platform, we recognize that spoken word and hip hop have always been connected. Before there were streaming numbers and viral clips, there were voices on stages telling stories that needed to be heard. Poetry and hip hop share that same foundation of rhythm, testimony, and truth. Solfull Poetry stands firmly in that tradition. He represents a generation of poets who are carrying the culture forward, not chasing trends, but building substance, not just performing words, but living inside them. This is a poet who understands that language can heal, language can challenge, and it can connect strangers across cities and experiences. And today, we take time to honor that work, because giving people their flowers while they are here matters. So it is my honor to welcome a powerful voice in contemporary spoken word, a dedicated craftsman of language, and a poet whose words truly live up to his name. Welcoming to the Hip Hop Scholar podcast, Solfull Poetry.
Wow. Do you see the tears in my eyes? Do you see the tears in my eyes? Like, I'm really, that's wow. I am. Oh, wow. And all of my years of what I've done, I've been given flowers, but I have never, in my days of doing this, heard someone articulate the things that I do and represent so well. I'm sitting here like crying. I'm like, whoa, like who is she talking about? And I'm like, oh, she's talking about you. Like, all right. Oh, I am
Talking about you.
Gratitude, so much gratitude. I am so honored. I am so blessed. I am so thankful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thank you for taking the time to be who you are, to affect audiences across the nation, across the world. You reached with social media and just being your most modest and most authentic self. I thank you so very much. And I want you to practice saying you're welcome with that. The modesty is there, but you truly have this gift of language, of personifying these prompts of greatness and making people really reflect on the excellence that they have. And it all starts with the confidence that you've built with self. So we welcome you here on this Hip Hop Scholar podcast. And I truly hope you really feel your flowers today.
I 100% do. I just thank you. You're welcome and thank you. Both of them in the same space.
There you Good. Well, good. Well, let's get started with these questions, shall we?
Let's
Now,
go. I'm ready.
my first question I always ask artists is when you fell in love with hip hop. And so with you, tell us about hip hop and or poetry, that spoken word of rhythm and rhyme. When did that begin for you, Soulful Poetry?
For me, the beginning of rhythm and rhyme for me is the writing, just literature, words, understanding, storytelling. Right? Storytelling was the abbreviation of words for me because words was like great, but oh whoa, you guys, you put these words together with all these different layers to make a story. Nas, Jay Z, Andre 3000, but also um watching Def Jam, and I know it's I don't care about it being so cliche, but there's something about watching actors, singers, rappers, everyone come back to the origin of writing being poetry on one stage. Like I'm a poet today. Like you know me for that. No, today I am a poet. I'm gonna express my poetry. Kanye doing actual songs on the stage in the form of spoken word poetry. It really broke it down to me. Like, oh, okay. So listening to Nas, listening to um uh, uh, uh um um AT Aliens, listening to Jay Z, um uh you feeling in, feeling on top of the way, feeling in, feeling your heart when you get to the. I'm listening to this and I'm like, whoa, okay, cool. So yeah, that was my origin. Nas, Jay Z, Andre 3000, Black Thought, like all these old rappers who truly had an understanding for how powerful words can tell stories. And so that was my origin.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, that wordsmith of the language of hip hop, not just necessarily the beats that go along with that, which enhances and
Mm-hmm.
emphasizes the words, but those are truly some formidable leaders in hip hop that you've selected as inspiration for your words. And so, when did you realize for you that poetry was more than just putting words on a paper to express yourself, but something you want to promote to the world?
2000, I want to say 18. I've been posting poems on Instagram with a poem in the caption and a muse as a picture since 2014. I was doing it every single day. 2018, there was a woman who DM'd me because I had posted a poem about dealing with the difficulties between marriage and that what one person deals with as an individual as a problem not being discussed as a couple will become a couple problem. And I wrote a poem about it, and she sent it back to me and said, I've been meaning to tell you this, but for about a year now, me and my husband read your poems together before we go to sleep at night. The moment she said that, I said, my love poems heal something in people. Um, and after that, the very next year, my best friend dragged me into an open mic. I mean, literally, she called me and said, people need to hear you." And I said, "You done lost your damn marbles. I'm not going on stage and spitting my poetry in front of people." Next thing I know, she outside my house. So it's been history ever since then. So that was the moment I knew, yeah, 2018, that message was, oh, maybe I need to do it. Then 2019 was like, oh, I have no choice. God is telling me, yeah, no, you don't have a choice no more. You coming outside, you spreading my message of love, and we gonna go crazy. So that's what I've been doing.
Shout out to the bestie outside your house, like, let's go.
Come on, shout out, bro.
You know, you
Yeah, that's
can't
my boy.
deny what God puts in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Always.
what it is. And so that ministry of yours, that began in such an honest way, to have been posting for years, right, with not any care other than to share this music and share these words and this
Mm-hmm.
poetry. 4 years, and then that recognition. That's a beautiful story to share. So did you begin with the name Soulful Poetry, or is that something that you came into? Talk to us about the origin of your name.
So, given a little history, so I started as a rapper and a music artist before I was doing spoken word poetry. I've been making music since 2009 under the name Kid Casper, and I used to have a record label called HWC, which was the abbreviation for Handle with Care. I used to have about 10 artists on there, and I didn't really do anything. I just said, hey, I want to create a label. I'm going to put a bunch of people I know on the one, and then I'm going to like organize y'all making music, send it to me, I'll post it, I'll edit it, woo, woo. Eventually, I hit a very depressive state in 2016, and it got dark, and my in that space, I felt empty. I felt so empty, so empty, and I was I don't know what I was reading. I think it was something about the light that God instills in you, and when I started doing more research about it, um, I found that in Latin, SOL means light, it means sun. And I felt like my poetry, who I was as a person, and the things I represented was full of that. And I was like, okay. And I'm a big dude. So at first it was supposed to be funny. It was supposed to be SOULFUL poetry, soulful poetry, right? Because soul food, I was a big dude, cool. And then in the midst of having a conversation with somebody, I was like, you know what? No, I am light. The things I do is light. The words I say carry light. The way I make people feel in conversation, it feels lightening. So and enlightening. So I said, soul full poetry. SOL light sun full. The embodiment, the encapsulation of the entire light, and then poetry is it's poetry full of light, read backwards. So soulful poetry, um, light encapsulating poetry, read backwards, poetry full of light.
Okay. Oh, I love that origin, right? And using that multi blending of languages, and having a purpose. Again, that deliberate precision you have with the wording and placing that. How amazing! And so you're coming out of Detroit. Shout out to Motor City. That
Come
city
on,
has
come on.
very deep artistic history. Now, represent. Go ahead now, and especially as a rapper, I know a lot of hip hop. D12, Eminem coming out of Detroit, many other rappers too. How has being from Detroit shaped your voice as a poet?
I've been waiting for this question ever since I started performing. I've been waiting for this question. There's a When you think about Detroit, you think about grit, you think about hustle, you think about ambition, and you think about community. Those things are instilled in you from the moment you become conscious while living in this city. And me, so I was originally born in Highland Park, Michigan. That's State Fair, genre. For people who gonna see this, they gonna know what I'm talking about. But I moved around Detroit for most of my life, and throughout that, I seen people who would go to work at early nights, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. My grandmother coming back home, leaving work at 10 o'clock, coming back 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm watching people not complaining. I'm watching my grandmother wake us up at 7 o'clock in the morning to go across the street to the garden and pick fruits and vegetables because we need to make sure it's clean for all the people and kids on the street that keep coming to my grandmother's house to get fruits and vegetables. And I'm seeing, oh, I'm watching people who care about their community, and it showed me like when I go out and I wear Detroit and I represent my city, I'm not representing it just from the sake of wanting to look like somebody who got motion. I'm representing it because I'm part of a community that takes pride in the effect that it has on the people that are raised in it, and it represents a lot more than just being popular, but having a stance of morale, um, abundance in your personality, being tied in with God, being spiritually aligned, and not letting nobody get in the way of your hustle. And hustle ain't always about money. Sometimes it's about things you hold close to your heart. And I hustle for my community because that's something that's cold dear to my heart.
Well, shout out to Detroit and to the grandmother
Yep.
that showed
Yep. Shout
you
out Willie. Shout
that,
out Miss Willie Pearl.
working hard for self and family. Miss Willie Pearl. Okay, Miss Willie Pearl. Uh, we honor her today, especially with her grandbaby doing such amazing things, starting
Yes,
with that
man.
garden early in the morning and helping the community. I mean, shout out to Detroit. And you did talk to us about who you were before Soulful Poetry. You're being with HWC. You said Kid Casper was your name, I
Yep.
believe.
Yep.
I think I remember that correctly.
Yep.
And so before that, and then being that humble person and youth growing into that community, which speaks volumes now that I think about it, the connection you have with building community through social media, right? Very
Mm-hmm.
deliberate in connections with the prompts, with your videos, and even with your tour. Talk to us about how you have used that connection with the garden early in the morning in Detroit to now using that around digital gardens. Talk to us about
Uh,
that.
Understanding the responsibility is not about you. I'm not bigger than the program. God could have took me off this earth alone. I don't know if you can see this, but right here, when I was born, the blood in my body was poisoned because I swallowed my own feces in my mother's stomach. And during that time, there was a machine called the ECMO machine, and it had not been working for a lot of people. And it was only in two places. In '97, it was in the hospital I was born, and Michigan's campus. And for it to work, when it was only supposed to have the accuracy of 13%, told me that every moment I breathe and everything I do is bigger than me. And the reason why I can take the understanding of the garden and waking up that early, one, it was discipline. Two, it was building character in that's the word I'm looking for. Integrity. That's the word. Building character, integrity. So now when I invest into community, I reach out to poets. I make videos saying, "Hey, community is big. It may be difficult, but it works. It's understanding." I accept everything that comes with the role of being a community leader, and it takes a lot. You got to deal with people having problems and issues with each other that ain't got nothing to do with you. And if you a leader, sometimes they will come to you because you're operating with multiple different pieces, and you sit back and you like, you know what? Um, Sometimes fruits and vegetables get rotten when it comes to taking care of a garden. You cut them off, you find ways to make it work. If not, you dispose of them. That's not the same way with people. With people, you have to operate. If there's something wrong, there's a hurt that hasn't been healed, and if they meet anybody who care and is genuine enough to see them within that, then it can work. So the garden in the morning was understanding that there will be times where I have to literally wake up and take care of things for other people that will never benefit me. But the reason that it does benefit me is because if I know my purpose is to serve my community and God, then that aligns with everything I do. So that's the reason. I know it's a little bit of a tiny bit of a delay between us, but that's the way that I do it.
Oh, how amazing. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that a young person really taking on that leadership role and understanding the responsibility of that. And so those moments in the garden, as challenging as it was, you were 7
Mm-hmm.
a.m., it's early, but
Yep.
an early lesson in building a community. And so transitioning that from there into the digital, beautifully said and stated. So unpack with us, talk to us and even teach us, how
Mm-hmm.
we can foster that in the community. And we even talked about how your grandmother, she was born in 19, I think you said 1915, and then was able to, no,
Uh,
1926, I believe,
1926.
and was able to
Yep.
go from, okay, so 1926 to post 2000. What? Tell us the years so we can have it with accuracy.
She was born 1926. She died 2015.
Right. So to go from that span of living and growing and reflection in those aspects and challenges, same for you. You know, going through what you did in birth. So you had to fight at birth, and then still rising to the challenge of blessing others, and you knowing that every breath you breathe and what others breathe is something that you take responsibility for because God has blessed you, and that's an amazing thing to hear. So when you do build this community, you know, you're showcasing your writing as well. So talk to us a little bit about your writing process. What type of a writer, do you have a feeling? Do you have the mood? Do you have just the time frame in which you do your
Mm-hmm.
poetry? How does soulful poetry, poetry full of life, how do you get into your poetry?
So, because my poetry arranged in so many different sections, like when it came to posting Instagram poems, a lot of those poems were inspired by music and songs that I was listening to while, because a lot of all the poems that people been seeing me post on Instagram for so long, I never write them then post them. I write them in the caption. So I pick the picture, I post it, I turn the song on, and I sit there and I write the whole poem in the caption. Then I post it, and then I'm famously known for typos. But I was known for typos because I used to just write and then post. It was like something that had to get out of my body. Like write it, post it, then be like, oh, okay, edit, post. Let me go ahead and fix this. But it was something that I just had to get it out. It was a pouring. So for that was for my content. Nowadays, I am a conceptual poet. Conceptual poet. I love concepts. Like swimming lessons, right? My poem that went viral within the last year or so. For me, my writing came from concepts, music, and human experiences. Now, I was famously known for being a love poet, and that came from a space of I most of the love I wrote about was from a perspective of things I wish I could experience, and instead of saying, "Oh, I wish I could do," no, I write. It's just that's currently what I'm in. When it came to swimming lessons, the poem that went viral, me and a homie was sitting down having a session, we talking, and he said, "Yeah, man, if you think about it, God is water." I said, "Boy, something wrong with you. You gotta just, whatever you consume and stop." He said, "No, man. Think about it. God is water." I said, "Well, if God is water, then learning how to trust God is learning how to swim." He said, "Well, you can't do either unless you learn how to surrender your body." And so from there, it just became concept after concept. Flowers for him. My may soul rest in peace. I lost my brother to a drive by in 2022, and the moment after that conversation, a friend of mine looked me in my eyes. And he had no idea my brother was gone. He said, "Man, if you think about it, black boys usually don't get their flowers for the first time today in the casket." And then I wrote flowers for him, and that's the reason why I have flowers tattooed all over me. And
Okay.
so my writing became reflection. My love poems became a manifestation and a vessel for stories. My poems that I go on stage with and I travel with became monologues and a vessel for captivation. I love captivating people anytime I open my mouth. Like it is, I work off that captivation factor of this is as transparent as I can get, as human as I can be, and as beautifully I can put words together. Because with my writing, especially being a wordsmith, I understand that every word in my mind has about 30 layers. So if I'm on word 65 and it's next to word 7, but I need layer 30 of 65 and 20 of 7, like that's how my brain works. So when people hear the way I write, it's like, yeah, because I'm trying to connect Pluto with Saturn, but I'm sitting on the sun. Like it takes a lot. But if you do it too unorganized, if you do it simply for the fact of being impressive, it's never going to work because they'll be able to tell you just want it to sound good. And for a minute, I was the same way. And when I took a step back, my writing became, okay, this is what you want to deliver. This is what you wanted to be said. And this is how you can go about it. Like when I said, in the poem I have, I will sit at the edge of heaven and wait for the rapture to mimic your birthstone before I walk through heaven's gates. When somebody asked me to break it down, I said, oh, think about it this way, right? The world is getting ready to end, and God just gave a warning or just gave a caution to people in heaven that it's a flood of people about to come up, the rapture about to start. I go and I sit at the edge of heaven and I watch it happen, waiting for the color of your birthstone to know that you're coming up here. Because if I don't see it, I'm not walking in. And that's what the captivation of the poem is supposed to give you, because the very line after is, if the intimacy I seek is buried in the wax of your favorite candle, when I die, I pray God resurrects me as inferno. And it's to give this understanding that if if I don't see you walk into heaven, if I'm resurrected, I pray it's your favorite candle.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
and it's like, well, what some people may say, well, you really don't have to use all those words to say that, and you don't have to. But I love the imagery in the. You talk about a picture is worth 1,000 words. That's at least 300 of them. Like you could do 100, but I want to do 5, 6. You know, I want to see how many words I can use to paint this image for you so clear you have no questions. So yeah, that's to be the origin of my writing.
How beautiful. As an English professor, of course, I adore the use of the word, the verbiage, the intricate details, and the nuances of what you're trying to portray. We're in a world where people's attention spans are very short. People writing skills are becoming nil. People want instant gratification to just know something by completion, but not
Mm-hmm.
that process, being able to process information and critically think about it. So that lost art, I think you are definitely, as a wordsmith, being certain to cultivate this continued art of poetry
Yes,
to the
ma'am.
people and for the people, because it does become a lost art. People want it to be entertained. And when you were talking about the 65th line to the 7th line all connected in layers, it made me think about, rapper turned poet. And most times we hear people, they have a poetry background before they go into rap. But the inverse of that for you
Mm-hmm.
makes your poetry, it makes sense now. Like, okay, yeah, he was a rapper. That's why his poetry is so dynamic. That's why
Mm-hmm.
it's so deeply in thought when he performs. And so I also like the fact of how you freestyle whenever you are typing and then go back to edit it. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's an important piece of the writing process is to just get it on paper, get it on
Yes,
paper.
pour. Please just pour. That's how I learned how to freestyle. People talk about the lunch table. The lunch table was military training for rappers. That was the art of being in a place. Like I was freestyling the other day because I listen to a lot of my poetry is influenced by jazz music. John Coltrane, Miles Davis, the quartet, like all of these assets. That Disney movie Soul, oh my God! As a poet, that movie twisted my whole mind about poetry. And then when you thought about freestyling, I was like, if you can say so. Whenever I'm freestyling poetry, and as an English, as a professor, you're gonna appreciate this. I scat a lot before I freestyle. I scat before I freestyle. So I'll say, I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna sing, Monica Pina Market of Duopathy, opposite of my opposite. Next thing you know, it's I was hoping the words that left your lips would offer me eternity in case the world crumbled. Yet here we are, sitting on two separate rocks. Me writing you this poem, like the light years between us won't cause it to be distorted by time it get to you. And for whatever words God needs to pull out of this poem to create new stars, I pray you can look up and fill in the blanks by the time you read it. Like now it's whoa. It's supposed to give. I want my poetry to be an IMAX feeling. It needs to feel like that whoa, like I can feel sonically, I can feel the world manipulating into what the poem is, and I have no choice but to sit in it until the poem is done.
Love that. Love that so much. That intent in making those words uh, make a hit. Hit people. In their ears, in their hearts, in their minds, and then even have to sit a bit. Right, like you get them warmed up with the scatting, and I appreciate that lost art too, of scatting just a little bit, just to get them started wondering what is he saying, what's he getting ready to say, so that introduction, that hook to bring them on in, and then using those words in such a way, it's poetry at its finest, and being
Yes,
able
ma'am.
to articulate those words and more words and even more words to produce a feeling that you didn't know you had, answering questions that people didn't even know they needed an answer to.
Yes, ma'am.
Creating a spectrum or thinking about heaven in a way where you're sitting on the edge of heaven, waiting on the color of my birthstone. Are you kidding me? Are you
And
kidding me?
another concept I thought of while you was just saying that, I have a poem. I don't do it as often anymore, and I need to revise it. I have a poem called "Black Girl Magic is the Da Vinci Code," and it's taking the story of Henrietta Lacks and the actual story of the Da Vinci Code and showing it off. And I got to memorize it. I haven't performed it in a long time, but when I wrote it and I spit it to one of my mentors, they was like, "This is one of the most beautiful pieces of writing I've heard." Like, to take those two concepts and to show, like, yeah, the story of the Da Vinci Code was a man connected to a key for a holy grail. And I said, well, that sounds like Henrietta Lacks getting her cells pulled from her body without her permission. And because melanin was the key to the infinite, like, nobody's seeing this. Like, nobody's seeing that the story of Da Vinci Code was written about Henrietta Lacks. Okay, that's interesting.
And that makes a point that I teach my students, is that these ideas that people have, nobody else has them. And I push my students to say it, write it, be it. Everybody doesn't think like you. And so that dynamic there, I've never heard of that. That's my first time ever hearing that. And so thankful that you've put that together and made that connection with the history of Henrietta Lacks and even the history of the Da Vinci Code, and making that parallelism between the two of them into poetry. That's again a very scientific driven mind, being able to connect those cells and create this new organism. Well done there, young scholar. Well done.
Thank
What
you. Thank you.
Of course, the next question I have to ask, though, as you're putting these poems together as beautifully as you have said, how do you know when a poem is finished?
You don't. I think that's the beautiful part about being an artist. You all, I, if poetry, if poetry is the recording of life, the poem is never finished until you're dead. That's very, because there's always going to be, when you perform it. Wait a minute. Wait. This is not how you performed it last time. That poem. That no. The poem supposed to be. No, no, no. That's how I perform it here. Perform the words are everlasting. What the words represents changes always, and it always depends on what the setting is. So no, the poem is not finished until the poet is dead.
Okay. All right. Philosophically said. That's profound. I like that idea, because even with hip hop artists, sometimes I ask them that question. How do you know when you have finished a song? And it's like you never do. That critique and that wanting to have something perfect. It's a never ending story. Whenever
Yeah.
you're putting that together. So talk to us as a rapper turned poet. Where do you see the intersection with spoken word and hip hop? Like, where do they intersect, and where do you see them connecting?
So I really want to give a big shout out to my brother Hakeem, the People's Poet. He has a saying. He says rap, but it's a rap acronym for rhythm and poetry. That's his saying. And me and him had this conversation multiple times. And for me, I always said, um, hip hop was storytelling made rhythmic with different beats on the word, heavy on the vowels, the consonants, heavy, especially on the consonants. Like that part was where it was like, okay, see, all right, like, okay, that cross when it comes to poetry is, well, you can tell it this way, and it can still Saul Williams. Saul Williams is a great example for that, and um, Common, Common, another good great example of that, where it's like, all right, I feel that with Princess Powell. You know what I mean? Like okay, I think for me, it's always been just a rhythm, just really just a rhythm, because if you take the rhythm and the beat, now it's a rap. But if you switch it up, if words get extended, if vowels get extended, if more vowels is put into it, so now all of a sudden things feel smooth. Now it feels like poetry and spoken word. Now it feels like R&B. But if it's the other side and it's heavy punching, if it's things that now it feels like rap. That's what it feels like. For me, that's just a separation. It's just rhythm and beat. You take that rhythm and beat away. Oh, this is a poem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Not only taking away the rhythm and the beat, but there's also those pauses that happen in
Yes.
poetry. There are those moments where the hand gestures even,
Mm-hmm.
help to
We have
present.
more pockets for resources. We have more resourceful pockets in poetry than rap. Cause hey, bro, you got a couple more bars before you off beat. Now the whole thing sounds ugly. You feel me? But with
Mhm.
poetry, I can say that I went to the store, but on the floor there was more to talk about. Like I can do that because this beat, you don't hear no beat. Or the beat that you hear is the language that's coming out of my mouth. So if I'm doing a piece like my most popular piece that I got that did the most numbers was called "What You Punch Like." What You Punch Like was shout out to Black Chakra, my boy. He inspired that watching one of his pieces back in the day. It hit me in the place where it's like, oh, I didn't know you can take such aggressive, heavy punching wordsmith wordplay and instill it into poetry. So if that right there, because we're still battling that separation of when you're a poet nowadays doing heavy punching poetry. A lot of people call you a battle rapper or they call you a rapper still. So for me, I don't take it as a threat because all you're trying to do is conceptualize how good I am. Like you can't even process how good I am, so you have to put me under something. That's what all humans do. That's our only way that we can figure out. You feel me? That's why we always refer to God that He is His, and for me, that's what you feel me, put that in their place, but always say God is just that infinite energy. And I'm like, if God is that infinite energy, then you think about the origin of hip hop and poetry. I'm like, yo, the book Proverbs is a book full of poetry,
Yeah.
and I'm listening to Nas and these rappers like that's why it feels like I'm listening to somebody talk about the Bible. Even J. Cole had a bar in one of his songs where he said, somebody told him Nas wrote the Bible. And now when I think about that, I'm like, oh, I take that line, I take poetry, and then I take the question you just asked. I'm like, oh, it exists in the same space. Like this, that's the separation. I got ADHD. I'm a STEM. I love it so much. I'm gonna go on for forever. But yeah, that's the reason why.
And we're here for that. Trust that neurodivergence is something we celebrate here. I am the mother of a beautiful son with autism, and he has ADHD. So no, you're in good company.
Oh,
And
great, great, great.
so, so to kind of critique what you've just shared, though, you say that poets have more resources than rappers. I would say the opposite. I think when you rap on the stage, sometimes you have the DJ, you have the melody, you got the microphone, and you don't have to intonate as much as with poets. The only tool of use is the voice, and being able to leverage that tool of the voice is what makes it seem that poets have more resources, only if somebody knows what to do with those tools. I use the
That's true.
analogy, right? I use the analogy like my husband. My husband, he is a craftsman. He has all these different tools in his garage and he can build anything. I mean, he can build anything, fix anything, and he has all these tools. And if I have access to that, but there's nothing I can do with them, right?
That's
And
true. That's true.
in my instance, though, like my machines that I create are in the form of a podcast or in literary thought, with the very resources. Like for me, I have a computer and I have a microphone, and that's all I have. And so the limited tools I have, I'm still able to create amazing things like my husband, but it's just in a different spectrum. And it's not whose is better and whose is bigger or better. It's about understanding what we both can bring. And that's
Absolutely.
the beauty of poetry does that, right? And poetry and even hip hop, the nuances of those things, where you can listen to Maya Angelou and you can listen to other spoken word artists and have that same reverence as you do with Tupac's and with Kendrick Lamar's.
Oh, heavy on Tupac. Heavy
Yeah,
on Tupac. Yes.
right? And,
Yes.
and and so much so, even to this day, I love how students and young people still have that reference for Tupac Shakur. And I was one of the, one of those people that actually grew up seeing Tupac and growing with him, seeing him become an artist in the movie field, and doing so many different things, and his life cut short because people tried to put him in his box and he refused. He
Mm-hmm.
absolutely refused to go into that box. And so his ministry still lives on, the legacy of it all. And that's a push for you, Solfull Poetry, that garden at 7 a.m. in Detroit, early morning, started your legacy of building a community of greatness through just words with the voice. No beats, no stars, no confetti, just simply the word and the person, like at the beginning of God creating the world, like the
Yeah.
book of Genesis.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank that's in that perspective, that's 100% true. It's always been about person and personnel. Like that's, hey, I'm just calling. I don't want nothing from you. I just want to call to pray over you. I just want to call and check. Like a couple of days ago, while I was on the phone praying for somebody else called, was like, I don't want nothing. I just want to pray over you. Like and it put me in a space, and I watched my mother get emotional listening because she like, I didn't know you were this much of a leader in your community of poetry. Obviously she's not in it. So when she see my phone constantly ringing, oh, here's this opportunity. Here's this opportunity. Hey, you influenced me. You inspired me. Hey, I just want to call and pray over you. Like, and she's seeing this all day, every single day, and every day is going up and up and up and up. Like, I just got tagged in something last night. My guy, Vig's Poetry, a great, amazing poet out from the UK, from I think Birmingham, UK. He just did a show on the radio, and he did a segment where he was talking about me on the radio. I'm like, bro, I ain't even been there yet. But it's like, yes, you have your energy, your love. It's already planted to where now I'm booked this summer in Hawaii, Thailand, and Korea. And I'm doing a workshop in Korea, and people have already bought slots for the workshop in Korea already that I've never met, who are Korean poets. And it puts me in this place like, Lord, you give your strongest battles to your toughest warriors, and I love that so much. I love that so much. But there has to be somebody who's putting the guns together, who are designing the armor, who is taking the actual elements of living, surviving, and prevailing, and that is what poetry is for me. That's what community is for me, because it's some people say it's lonely at the top, and it's like I can understand how lonely it can be, but God made me a community. He ain't gonna take me out of it anytime soon.
Amen. Amen to that. And, if it means anything, Houston, Texas in the building. I reached out to you,
Come
and
on, come on.
Gulf Coast in the building. We are
I'm on
here.
my
And
way. I need to get that I need a brisket from Houston, Texas in 3 weeks to make sure I got the best brisket ever.
trust, you will. This place does barbecue. Cajun food, not so much, because I'm Louisianian. Cajun food is más o menos. But that brisket, that Texas barbecue, like none other. So you be ready for that.
Come
And
on.
and definitely too, take the time to enjoy it, right? Not that, the royal part of you. You are royalty clearly because of the posts and the calls and everybody looking at you as king. And with that though, you still are this working leader, where you're not just telling people where to go, you are telling people to walk with you. You want the tribe to follow you as you go along, which is very rare when you think of someone who can command an audience with just a voice, just your words, just the voice. And that's the beauty of it, being able to use poetry, because poetry is not something that's easy. Being able to freestyle or rap or put something together isn't easy. So I want to ask you, has poetry ever helped you with the difficulty that it does bring? How has the difficulty of putting together poetry helped to build you who you are?
Resilience, resilience, emotional durability, resilience, emotional durability, um, um, unwavering discipline, like just all those. Cause I'm a STEM. I'm gonna go talk on forever, but I want to practice on encapsulating a lot in just a couple words: emotional durability, unwavering discipline, and resilience.
Okay. If you want to STEM, like I said, I'm the mama of a baby. We can
Hey,
STEM together.
you know what? I'm practicing because I'm in these big meetings now. I'm in these elevator pitch type meetings now, so I have to practice with. I give myself the space and the grace because I love who I am as a person, and when I STEM, it offers so much connectivity. But in positions like this, I have to practice these. I'm trying to practice with myself to make sure when I'm hopping in these meetings, these big businesses, they want to hear stories. So it's good, but I also want to practice on making sure I tell a very fluent, aligned story.
Well, we are happy to have you to practice here. No worries, though. And anytime you are welcome to come and talk about each nuance of each piece, because there's a lot to be said. When you say poetry, there are probably a million attributes just to talk about poetry, and then spoken word, and then the differences between writing poetry and then actually speaking poetry,
Can I?
right? Let's practice that right now. Tell me the
Mm-hmm.
distinctions between writing poetry and performing poetry. Talk to me.
Okay, so I don't know if I want to tie this because this might be a whole different thing to talk about because we're in a renaissance of poetry right now. Poetry is in a very big renaissance. We just had a poet win an NAACP award yesterday. Like it's so shout out to Lene, shout out Revolt for giving a poet an opportunity to have that big of a platform. Um, whew, the written part of poetry is always and forever going to prevail because it is the origins of poetry existing. Spoken word poetry is in an interesting place right now because how can I do this? Okay, Ben. Spoken word poetry is the hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got slams, you got entertainment, you got conferences, you got open mics, and you got, let's say, workshops. Let's just say workshops, right? Right now, slams are the thumb for a reason because you need this for everything. Slam is the epitome of just poetry, a spoken word being put out because it's people competing. If I'm gonna make sure I get my history right. It was Chicago. Was it Chicago originated? Um, where it helped people get better. It built community. Then you got open mics. Now with open mics, it's community. This is it. The Cafe Mahoganies, the New Eurekans, the Blue Notes, all these legendary places that house poets. In Detroit, there's a place called 90s Knowledge Cafe, which the old spot right now is called Poetry in the Park, Rock Local. Flowetry, Common, they used to come back to these spots in Detroit to do poetry back in the day. And that's what's so amazing to me now. It's like, okay, written poetry is prevailing because a lot of people are reading more. People are reading more now. So written poetry is doing better and doing bigger numbers because people are putting more books out. Spoken word poetry is changing the entire landscape of poetry as a whole right now because You got poets winning NAACP awards. You got poets who got their words in museums in Europe, who are spoken word poets. You got poets performing, winning Grammys now. You got poets winning Grammys now. Like, uh, Saul Williams, a spoken word poet, was the preacher boy's father in Sinners. Like, he's a spoken word poet. And you look at that, and I be having these conversations with poets every single day. Poetry is now in the entertainment field at a bigger rate than it's ever been, and y'all are only seeing the door creak. Like, everything that's behind this door right now, people have no idea what's about to get announced, what's ready to get announced, and it's on the thing like, all right, cool. Some of the stuff I can say, some of the stuff I can't talk about, some of the stuff people don't know I know, and it's like I'm watching it happen. I I feel like the person who discovered Google. Like, I see something happening 20. I feel like, and we're about 10 to 15 years ahead of it. But for the next 10 or 15 years, you are about to witness the landscape of poetry shift with the advancements of the times. That's why it's called the Renaissance. It's returned back to its roots with the advancements of the time. So now it's like watching a poet win an NAACP award, an Oscar, a Grammy within the same week, while also seeing a poet, like, I think her name Mira or Miracle. She just did a commercial for DoorDash where she was the DoorDasher and the poet doing a poem in the same commercial. Like, me and two other poets, Oceana, Joel Fluent Green, we just did a commercial for the Tigers 2 years ago. I'm like, is nobody seeing what's going on? Like, nobody watching this? Like, am I, like, that's why when Nina Simone said, so 2026 is the year of the horse. I tell people this year is the year of the poet. What means is it is the poet's duty to make sure they are authentically and genuinely displaying the love for the poets, for the poetry, for the community, and educating people on the art and the history of the world and poetry. So when you talk about Saul Williams and all these poets recording what's going on with ICE, what's going on in Palestine, Gaza, Sudan, Congos, Cambodia, people not talking about what Nike got going on in Cambodia. Like, all these things is like, yo, this is what everything I'm saying right now is spoken word poetry. Poetry is just the fact that it's get written. Written poetry, and poetry is the whole spoken word poetry. Is like, yeah, we're gonna flip the umbrella upside down. Like, we're about to flip this whole thing upside down, and then we're about to collect all of these amazing things. And once they get too full, what's gonna happen? It's gonna flip right back around again, and everything gonna fall. Everything gonna collect at the top, and it's gonna keep happening for the rest of history. And it's like, right now, we're like right here. Like, it ain't fully like this to where we captured everything, but it's like right here, and it's like, give it 3 more years, you're about to see things happen in spoken word poetry nobody thought was possible.
Okay. Well, we heard it here first on the Hip Hop Scholar podcast. And I love the excitement, right? And I like that you have distinctly placed it as a renaissance that is occurring. And so us looking forward to the future of those things. I also want to consider this too. I have about one or two more questions for you. And I want you to also consider something along with this as well. In the big spectrum of poetry, but also with soulful poetry. If you could perform anywhere in the world, no, it doesn't matter the money, the resources, you got all that to go anywhere in the world, where would you want to perform and why?
Mm. Either Johannesburg, Zimbabwe, or I would want to sell out the Little Caesars Arena in Detroit.
Okay.
Now, I say Africa because selling out a stadium or a festival stage in Africa doing poetry would completely shift the landscape of what people think is possible for a poet to do.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but it gets me to go back to the motherland and say, look, the power in words, the power that we prevail, this is it. Little Caesars Arena in Detroit. Boy, that's why I be saying, that's why the NBA won't have All-Star Weekend in Detroit, because they know people gonna show their behinds. I want to get my, I feel like Detroit has given so many places culture. Like Michigan as a whole, you think about motor, you think about watches, you think about cars, like you think about you think about Detroit. So Little Caesars Arena for me would be selling out that whole stadium, that whole place, um, doing poetry and having some of the biggest poets there. I beyond think it's possible. I beyond actually I don't even think it's possible. I think it's in the making. I'm just like, give me like 10 more years. I'm going to sell out a stadium doing poetry. And the reason why I think it's possible is like, you got some poets that can sell out theaters with 600 to 1,000 people. You put 10 of them people on the same show with a good budget, you can sell out a basketball stadium in a heartbeat. Like, you could really make that happen with given time. And I think what it is that people don't want to do what it takes to make that happen. Because, like you just said, there ain't no limit of money. Like, what would you want to do? Yeah, and you ain't talking about no limit of money. Your stay taken care of. Your travel. Your cool. This time, this place, we're about to have. That's what it is. I think it's time for us to have a poetry Super Bowl. It's time. We have not had. There has not been a poetry Super Bowl to where you can look and be like, this can never be replicated again, and if it does, it's going to cost anywhere between $100,000 to $500,000. Like this, we need a poetry Super Bowl where you have written poets, spoken word poets, recording artist poets, and poets who act, and it has to be a whole entire experience. The only reason why it's hard to do that is because people stop getting along when money start coming into the conversation. So you need somebody who has enough market and buy power to say, hey, all this little arguing y'all doing because of bread, hey, here's the money. Stop all that. Let's work. That's why I'm working so hard. Because I want to be the person to be like, bro, here's the money. Let's do it. While y'all doing all this talking, we trying to make history. Stop all this talking. Like, let's get to it. God didn't give us 2 legs, 2 arms, 10 fingers, all these limbs, all these abilities for y'all to be arguing because somebody ain't using their left leg how you use your right arm. That don't make sense to me. Like, so that's I'm working hard because I need this poetry Super Bowl needs to happen. It needs to happen. I think it can happen. Yes, I do think it's going to take a million different parts to make it happen because it's easier to do something like this with music because you have the backing for it. With poetry, we're nowhere near as popular as hip hop is. So for them, it's like you take the entities. That's why I say this year is the year of the poet, because people are more interested in who people are as a poet than the actual poetry. Then they hear the poetry and they're like, "Oh wow, I love this poet," because they talk about things that I don't often see people talk about. So that's why I would want to do it in LCA, because it's a lot bigger than what people are thinking. This needs to happen to show people the landscape of like, bro, y'all just sold out 20,000 plus people poetry. Yeah, but it was the umbrella. Everything under it made it. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. I can't wait.
That's right. You're looking forward to that in LCA, Little Caesars Arena
Little Caesars Arena. Yup.
in Detroit, and then Zimbabwe and Johannesburg.
Johannesburg. Johannesburg.
Yeah, and taking it back to the motherland. So, my last question, building off of that, you got the money, you got the Poetry Super Bowl going. Tell us whether now, in the future, or even in the past, what does success look like for a poet?
Oh, success for poetry looks like having the stable financial backing and the gatekeepers in the structure having the financial literacy to expand it. All the most successful poets I know, poetry is not their main thing. Some of these people work on houses, got property, do IT tech work. Poetry is not their main thing. And if poetry is their main thing, it's like a 5%, 3% group of people that they can travel full time and go and do poetry. Now, for me, that was me at the long time. Let me tell y'all something, right? And I want everybody who listening to this, you can clip this. When I get off this tour, I'm going to work at Shake Shack. I'm going to flip a burger for a couple weeks. You want to know why? A lot of people in their head like, bro, what? You just did all this? Yes, because success is not linear. Success is not linear. Whatever you need to do to make your success happen, it needs to happen. And you don't need the validation of anybody who it does not count on them, how they feel or exist to happen. So, if you one of the poets that's like, man, I'm working at McDonald's, I want to go out to here. Boy, do you know what I have to do to make this store happen? you know how smart, strategic. Bro, I didn't pop up and say, hey, I got 10,000. I want to go on tour. No, I said I'm worth $1 million. I need to find a way to make it happen. So, being in that place of saying, whatever you need to do, whatever you need to make happen to make your dreams happen, do it. Success is not linear, so do not struggle yourself for alignment when everything is opening up for you to have a perfect path, like to have a beautiful path. So when it comes to that, the big Super Bowl, and when it comes to what's going to make a poet successful, financial literacy and community. Financial literacy and community is how poets in the future are going to be successful, because you have the smart to know that success is not linear, and there's multiple. Man, you can't put all poets listening to this. The biggest mistake I've made in my career so far as a poet was I put all my eggs in one basket. When I sat down with some of my homies and I had that conversation, I realized, bro, you're good at IT work. You do graphic designs. You love cooking. There's so many other things that you can do that can help your poetry, because poetry is a reflection of life, but you are not living life. Your poetry will reflect where you miss it. So, for any poet listening to this and you like, man, I got to work these 9 to 5, I got to do this, stop looking at it from survival and look at it for an asset of supplying your dreams what they need. You do that, money, you're going to take off for the rest of your life, bro. I swear.
I know that's right. I know that's right. When you were talking, it definitely promotes the Detroit trope of working hard regardless. That movie 8 Mile, at the end when B Rabbit won the competition, he went right to work, went right back to that
Yup,
factory
yup.
right after that. So, hip hop's still in the building, but that poetry though is definitely the essence of that. And there's still more to talk with you about. I look forward to speaking with you more about this in the future and joining that tour. I can't wait to see you perform out here in
Yeah,
Houston.
that's one thing you brought up I wanted to comment on real quick was the writing prompts.
Yes,
I
yes.
did these writing prompts. The reason that I do the writing prompts is because I want to give people I want to put people in a sand, not in a box, but a sandbox. Or put them, actually, I want to put them on a beach. Let's say that. I want to put them on a beach and say, hey, this is a whole thing of sand. Um, this is what I have an idea for, but how can you do it? Like, hey, we're on a beach and I'm thinking of a castle. How do you think the castle should look? You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
That's what my writing prompt is. It's not, hey, this is a castle. This is how a castle should look. No, I think this is a great space to build a castle. How do you think it should look? When I did write a poem as if you're interviewing for a spot in heaven, my homie did a poem. My boy, shout out to my boy Billy Shakes. He did a poem about nepotism. Whoa, crazy, right? So he did the poem as if he was interviewing for the spot, but he came in like he already knew he had it. He was like, yeah, you could tell them already out there. I know I got the job, because he had lost his father. And in that process, in the poem, but he had recently just got engaged. So later in the poem, it reveals, hey, yeah, we have to reject your letter. Why would we interview for a spot in heaven if you got it on earth already?
Mm.
And that's what I want my prompts to do. That's what captivation. Captivation. Write a poem from the perspective of being Cupid's last arrow. Ain't nobody thinking about that. Like they gon' now you in this space of being like, you have to watch Cupid deal with every single emotion of every arrow he has ever let go. and you don't know what he's dealing with. You don't know what he's feeling. You don't know what or write a poem from the perspective of a casket maker retiring. Ain't nobody thinking about no casket maker. Like, ain't no, I challenge, my prompts are meant to challenge the way people think and conceptualize human experiences through poetry. That's that's what my prompts are meant to do. So when you brought the prompts up earlier, man, I get so excited. I got one I need to post today after we get off the phone. So I love them so much because as soon as you hear that, you're all my poets. Bring it in. I got a new writing prompt for y'all. Y'all ready for this? Watch this. They go crazy. Like let's hear it. So yeah, I love it. I love it so much.
And it is loved and adored by all of us. And I wanted to also say, shout out to those prompts, but I feel I almost can feel and know for certain that your brother who passed away in 2022, sitting on the edge of heaven, looking down, waiting on your birthstone, but it's just as proud as can be to see his brother just showing off and being who you are. I
Thank
really
you.
feel that because you are.
So much. Ooh, that means so much. Ooh, ooh, all right, that means so much. That ooh, he gonna cry in the car. He gonna cry in the car. Man, he needs some milk. Oh Lord, yeah, that's man. That I'm so grateful. And I can't wait to come out to Houston. I would love to do this in person. Like if we do another one, like after the show, like I would love to connect this to the show and do like a real one in Houston where I can be in front of you. We can do it after the show is over with so they can see the duality of starting the tour and how I feel with the process.
That's an idea. That's definitely, I appreciate that opportunity. We'll talk more about that. I have just enjoyed talking with you. Just a mama bear. Shout out to your parents. I know they are proud. Shoot, I'm proud of you. Like you, my baby.
Thank you.
Like a
Thank you.
young
Thank you.
person doing
That's
such.
community. That's
That's
community.
me.
That's what I'm talking about. So thank you. That means a lot to me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You have a spot here at the Hip Hop Scholar Podcast. Definitely will be seeing you soon. Y'all check out this brother. Links to his socials and to those tours that are coming. Y'all go and support him.
Yeah.
With that said, we are out of here. Peace.